everyone, please welcome with me Jennifer Bowers from the US. Jennifer, also named Shea Love as her radio name, is also having a podcast called Being from Atlanta to Auckland, where she is sharing her beautiful story of moving overseas. And I'm very grateful that she's here today for us to share the story with us and to, tell us how beautiful her journey was. So, welcome, Jennifer. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. I'm so excited to be chatting with you.
Yay, me too. I already
Mhm.
had the honor to meet you offline, and we also already had the chance to chat a bit about your life. And I just think it's such an inspiring story. So I
Mhm.
really can't wait to share it with the world as well. And I hope, of course, that everyone will jump onto your podcast show. And it just recently dropped the first episode. And
Yes.
actually, I listened to it because I wanted to know a bit more about you first. So, do you
Yeah.
mind telling us a little bit about how the life looked like in the US that you left behind before you decided to move countries?
Yeah. Well, life for me in the US was pretty busy. I mean, I was a on-air radio and television personality. I also was a executive for different nonprofit organizations in Atlanta. And so a lot of movement, a lot of things pertaining to kind of my career. I also have a family in Atlanta, of course, lots of friends. And so really just in a place of, certainly comfort and enjoyment, very, lots of interesting things to do throughout the course of the week and really just throughout the course of my experience there, but sort of reached a point where I was excited and eager for something a little bit different. And so that's what kind of led me to explore the journey of considering relocating. And here I am.
Yay! And that's awesome because otherwise we probably wouldn't have met. So it's
That's right.
very cool. And what I found so inspiring about your journey and the beginnings, especially, was
Mhm.
the whole process of from when you thought of it with moving potentially and having a change and then
Mhm.
executing it. This process was really inspiring also because of the way you did it.
Mhm.
And it's so nicely explained in your first episode where you
Yeah.
came together with your cousin and you kind of hold each other accountable for whatever happened next. Do you mind
Yes.
telling us a little bit about that? Like, kind of your first episode in a tiny summary, because this is a
Yeah.
part I feel like a lot of people could learn from. Because I think a lot of people, most people crave change and they have no
Mhm.
idea how to go about it. And I think the way you guys did it was such a beautiful way.
Hmm.
So I would
Thank
love you
you.
to just share that with us.
Yeah, sure. I'm happy to share. Well, we both had reached kind of a point in our lives, which was really around 2023, where we wanted to just see a big, bold, audacious change in the way in which we were living. And we had both talked about different things that we were interested in doing and excited about doing. And just we talked about it, but never actually activated it. And so one day we were talking about what we imagined, and we made a pact. We said that we were going to meet every Monday at 9 a.m. for just 1 hour, and we were going to focus very specifically and only on activating some of the goals that we had talked about. And so one part of this was, one, identifying specific actions toward that goal, but we only had a week to accomplish one specific action. And they were big actions, like big, kind of uncomfortable actions that we had to take. And so, like,
Yeah.
one example was, we wanted to eliminate debt, as an example. And in doing that, we said, like, one week for me, it was eliminate that specific credit card, figure out how to basically pay off that credit card in a week. And what was really interesting is where you focus when you have to focus, and how you focus, and how resourceful and creative and energetic you are around accomplishing something when you're just focused on one big thing, right? And so we started doing that pretty consistently. And what we both discovered is this kind of muscle that you build from pushing yourself, but also from consistently doing it in a way that is more focused on creativity and, um, you know, uh, imagination than fear. And so that's kind of where we started, and certainly how I've kind of got to this point.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I loved about it so much is you don't always just have to use it for big life decisions like
Yeah,
moving countries. You can
yeah,
use it for little steps. You can use it for things that seem so big in your mind, but then when you
yeah,
break it down, it's like a small piece, and then you accomplish that, and then you move on to the next thing. And as you said, you find new ways and possibilities of doing what you thought would be so much harder or impossible
yes,
even. And
yes,
like for a lot of people, of course, depends on the debt on the credit card, but that seems like, wow, within 1 week finding a way, like, am I
yeah,
going on the street and hope people will help me? That's not the case. So
yeah.
you
Well, and
actually,
I think that that's the thing, is that, and I like to be really clear about that, is that even when I say that, and I say that for a reason, because I use that as an example for a reason, because it can feel daunting. But the thing is if you think about, like, breaking down what feels big, it actually is attainable, and there are some, like, for example, in my particular instance, with the credit card, it was a certain amount that not only was it pushing me to do, but it was feasible for me to accomplish, right? Maybe if it was
yeah,
a larger amount, it might have been a situation where we might say, in next week you pay this amount, right? And then the following week you pay this amount. So it's kind of like, really, the only thing that we focused on was not what potentially the obstacle would be, but what would be uncomfortably attainable to help move our vision forward, right? And so I think, things like that, like, just as you're thinking about what is possible, everything's possible. And people get very creative, like,
yeah.
um I don't know, there's just so many instances where I was like, oh wow, I didn't even know I had that, or I didn't even wasn't even using it, or I wasn't even thinking about it that way. And so
Yeah.
it's also kind of about creativity.
I honestly think just your guys' catch up every Monday could have been a show. Like,
Yeah.
okay, what's next? And then people would
Yeah.
watch it. I would be so keen on seeing, okay, what goal have you set next? And then will you achieve it? And then how do
Yeah.
you achieve it? So
Yep.
that's amazing. And I love that idea. And I think a lot of people are forgetting to make it achievable so that you also have like a little satisfaction and like a success, because
Yeah.
otherwise you are easily giving up, right? That's pretty much what you also said, to
Yeah.
make it big enough to be uncomfortable, but so that it's realistic for you to find a way to achieve it as well.
That's right. That's right. Yes.
So once you had that meeting every Monday,
Mhm.
how did this idea of actually leaving the US and moving specifically to Auckland came about? What was that kind
Mhm.
of thought process?
Well, so I actually, that was one of the things that I had imagined, was that I'd like to at least see what New Zealand is like, because before that moment, I'd never been to New Zealand. And so one of my actual tasks for one of our growth hour meetings was this week, buy a ticket, right? And it didn't matter when I purchased the ticket, what date I purchased it for. The purpose of it was for me to actually go to the country and see if it's a place that I might like to experience and perhaps live. And so that was kind of the first step to discovering whether or not New Zealand made sense for me. And so I bought a ticket. I bought a ticket for in January, I think of 2024. And it was so funny because also during that time period, that year, I had been reading this book by Brianna Weiss called A Thousand and One Ways to Think Differently. And in her book, she talks about a routinely unroutine thing that you could just do in your life to shift things, to make it more interesting and dynamic. And so the routine for me was traveling once a month, and the unroutine was where I would travel. And every trip didn't have to be someplace extravagant. It could be, perhaps going to another city that I could drive to. It might be a flight that's 2 hours, but whatever the case was, the idea was to actually experience something new every month. And so one of my friends, she said to me, "Hey Jennifer, you know what? The next time you take one of these trips, I'd love to come with you." And so she's also that friend that is like, I call her the ride or live friend. She will literally just be like, "Okay, let's go." And so
Nice.
I sent her a text message and I was like, "Hey, listen, I'm doing my routinely unroutine trip. I'm going to New Zealand. Do you want to come with me?" And in an hour, she was like, "Yeah," and I got my ticket. So she joined me, and really the beautiful thing about her joining me in particular is I would say that I'm very spontaneous. I'm very like fly by the seat of my pants. I am happy, to wake up in the morning and be like, "Oh, I think I'm going to do this today." And she has a bit more structure to the way that she moves. And her structure really brought such beauty and significance to the way we experience New Zealand. She had this amazing spreadsheet, and I didn't have a spreadsheet. So anyway, that's what really sort of led to really such a rich experience when we did come in January.
Yeah. And do you think your way of seeing New Zealand would have been different and maybe not let you to live here if your friend wouldn't have been with you?
It's funny you say that because I think yes, because it was so funny. We were really sort of thinking about all the places we wanted to see, and one of the things that she wanted to see was a glacier. And she was like, we're on this side of the world. We need to see that. And I was so focused on getting to Auckland that I didn't even consider all of the wonderful possibilities that existed in the South Island, that we visited Wellington. I wasn't even thinking about that. And so I don't think so. I think she really helped expand, what kind of experience we had. And it was so funny because at one moment she was like, we have to buy plane tickets to go there, right? Like, it's not like you just, you can't just wake up the next morning and like just go. Although I probably would have done that. But anyway, it's it is, it was just really, it was really wonderful to have her perspective. And I think also that was another lesson that I learned is that, whenever you're growing, it is always really beautiful to have other people be part of that growth because they sort of add things to what you're experiencing that maybe you never considered. And so yeah, I think it would have been a different trip had she not joined me.
Yeah. Oh, that's
Yeah.
great. Maybe she added the whole beauty of the country to the trip, while you might have
Yeah.
not been to certain places, and then you would never think, okay, this is the place for me because it has everything and all these beautiful things. So
Yeah.
that's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
How has it been for you to actually leave everything behind? And also because your kids are still in the US, like you have a
Mhm.
family that you are still having over there. How is
Mhm.
that for you as a mom being so far away from your kids?
Actually, I mean, I think what's been really interesting about this experience is one, I mean, it's been a conversation for quite some time, so it's been no surprise, and it also, I have children that are a bit older, so it also has really sharpened their level of independence as well, which has been really beautiful. Just sort of seeing how I will admit I am that mom that's like, I'm in it. I'm showing up for all the things. I am at everything. I'm talking to the teachers even in high school, and so
Yeah.
I think that there is um a level of independence that they are able to experience just by me not being so hands on. And it's also helped me not be so hands on. I mean, then that's not to say that I'm not involved and engaged in the ways in which I can be, but I think there's been some beauty that's actually come from that, and then my daughter and I we have these little funny calls where we video chat and just catch up, and it's so cute and so fun, and it's actually deepened and sharpened our relationship in a way that is kind of special. It's different. And then
Yeah.
she also had an opportunity to come here and spend some time and experience a new country as well. And I think that's also really important to think about, being what it is like to experience different places around the world. I think sometimes we get comfortable in what feels like home that we miss, the opportunity to experience something new and to expand our territory. And so
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, that's really beautiful. And I remember you were saying before as well that you also want your children to have like another place in the world that they could call home, which I
yeah, yeah,
felt like was really beautiful as well.
yeah.
And
That's right.
when you say about the calls with your daughter, I
Mhm.
remember like I think I see my mom more often over the phone with video calls than she actually sees my brother in person who lives over there. So
Right.
um, we also built this connection where we just talk about everything. We send photos of everything and we
Yeah,
just have our video chats and
yeah,
connect in a level. Of course, she would prefer me being there. I know that.
yeah, yeah.
But I think she also understands that with the technology we have these days, that I'm actually very present. I know what's going on in her life, and she knows
Mhm.
what's going on in my life. And we actually see each other, even though it's
Yeah,
not always in person. And it never feels like as if we wouldn't see each other for like a couple of years. So
yeah.
that's
Okay.
really, really cool.
That is
Yeah.
cool. And I think, especially it is also like after COVID, I think that also taught us to be more creative about how we communicate with each other. That there
Yeah.
are many, many ways now to still stay connected and still stay present. And you know, yeah. So I think just even in hearing about your experience with your mom, it's possible. There is nothing like a hug, hugging your kid, hugging your mom, but
Yeah,
it also is, it also makes you more creative about how you stay connected. So
absolutely. And you have an opportunity to connect on a different level as well. I believe that
yeah,
too. Yeah.
yeah.
And for you coming to New Zealand,
Mhm.
what were your hopes? What were you hoping to find, or what were you looking for? Or still you are looking for?
Yeah, it's funny because I don't know that I'm looking for something. I think I am answering a whisper. I literally, um you know how seeds are just kind of planted in your mind about things that you want to do, and we're sort of tasked to experience it, to see what it is that I'm looking for. And so for me, um, it was actually, I read this article in 2016 in the Wall Street Journal. It happened to be about American tech executives that were moving to New Zealand to purchase land. And it wasn't so much about them purchasing land, it was more about New Zealand. It was not a country that had ever been on my radar before. And for
Yeah.
some reason, that just kind of it intrigued me. And so during that period of time, I started doing a little bit of research. I, really became fascinated by just the natural beauty of the country and the culture of the country. In some ways, it actually reminded me of my home, which is Albuquerque, New Mexico, in the States. And it just felt like, wow, I love nature, I love hiking, I love, being outdoors. And so there were just so many things that kind of pulled me. And
Yeah.
I think that seed planted, it started growing. And so when we started talking about, like, what is the most audacious thing that you could do? For me, this was it. This was like, I'm gonna go there. I'm gonna see why the seed has been planted with me, and discover it. And so really, I think initially it was just, determining or figuring out what is this country like. Um,
Yeah.
and it happens that when I did do that, like, it sort of also, then it just started screaming at me. It was like, "Oh, this feels like home."
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, I just, yeah,
I
it
can
just felt
relate
really
to
good.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, that's
And
right.
now, how long have you been here already?
Well, let's see. I've been kind of off and on because I'm still sort of navigating the process. So I'm really just kind of exploring, just visiting, kind of getting a sense for what this space is like. So I've been here since the beginning of February.
Right, which is not
Mhm.
that long. So,
No.
from that time being here,
Mhm.
what would you think you have discovered? And I ask both questions at the same time. You can decide which one you want to answer first.
Yeah.
Which part would you think is kind of like the ugly truth of moving to a country that is not your home country? And
Mhm.
then which part was so far for you the most beautiful to explore?
Hmm. I think, when you say maybe ugly truth, I guess one thing that and I don't even know that it's ugly, but it's just something that you have to really think about, and that is distance. That there is something about having the capacity to, like living in the States. If I wanted to go home and see my parents, it's 2 hours. If I wanted to go home and see my parents, it's 14 hours. you know and
Yes.
so it's thinking about something like that is certainly, um that is the truth. That is the truth about this feeling of, longing for something that feels like home when you haven't built a home yet. Do you know what I mean? So, and
Yeah.
I also am a very I love people and I love my family and friends and I love having them around me and having them sort of near. And so this has also been, if I were to say kind of what would feel like an ugly truth is really having to navigate something new fully, without the crutch of being able to, oh, I'm just going to fly home. It
Yeah.
doesn't work that way exactly. I mean, I could,
Yes.
but I think there's also me building that muscle of strength in that way too. Um, so I think that's one thing. I think one thing that's really beautiful is I really, there's something so, I love the sort of the richness of all the various cultures that reside here in Auckland in particular. And, just the way that I've just I it, so as the ugly truth is sort of this feeling of loneliness and wanting to be connected to community in a certain way, it also is the openness to build that community too, is what I've experienced, and so I think they kind of balance each other out a little bit. It has been really
Yeah.
nice to meet so many different people, and yeah, and also meet people in kind of a very rich way, in a very deep way. Like I just found the conversations and the connections to be very meaningful. And so that's what's been lovely.
I I really love how you say it because especially they are quite like both sides belong together because it's about
Mhm.
connection and loneliness and distance and building something so that the distance isn't there anymore.
Yeah.
But I can remember right in the beginning, it was mid 2019. I kind of have started settling a bit, but it was still new. And
Mhm.
I went through a real rough patch. And I remember all I wanted was my family, my friends
Yeah.
from home.
Yeah.
And that was the hardest time because, as you said, I just decided to jump on a plane and go
Mhm.
literally to the other side of the world. And what I
Mhm.
forgot about it was the distance.
Yeah.
And I just ignored the fact that if I really need to go home to book a flight and to then actually be on a flight, it's more than 24 hours to get there. It's like 2 days for me to even be there. And I just experienced it a few years after when my aunt passed away, and I just booked a flight for the month afterwards.
Yes.
And I just couldn't make it in time because she
Mhm.
just couldn't hold on to it any longer. She was very sick,
Mhm.
and the distance felt so unbelievable. Like it was just
Yeah.
there. But then, as you said, building a new family here with new friends and all the community, so many people from overseas that also look for community and like to
Sure.
belong.
Yeah.
And
That's right.
that's very beautiful. And at that time, when my aunt passed away, I already built like a little group of friends and called it my
Mm.
little family here. And that
Mm.
helped a lot because it was really hard to be so far away from my actual family. So
Oh,
I
sure.
I feel you a lot on both ways. Like
Yeah.
it's to be open for new communities, new people, and
Mhm.
still being aware. It's a long way to go back home.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. And it's funny because I think, this guy on Instagram, he was talking about how a plant grows. And he was talking about how, the roots, it's uncomfortable for the plant to plant roots and it's also blooming. So it's actually growing in both directions. It's planting itself and it's also blooming. And, even the discomfort of having to kind of plant roots and dig through, the soil and all this kind of stuff, it's kind of the experience of moving like this, like there are things that are uncomfortable about growth, but even in that discomfort, you are building a strong foundation and really a muscle to manage through something that maybe you hadn't had an opportunity to manage through before. And then, on the top end, you're blooming, you're growing in this other really beautiful, profound way. And so, yeah, I think it's kind of part of the overall experience, of growth, quite
Yeah.
frankly. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, well said. Because I
yeah,
guess growth can't happen if we stay in our comfort zone, and
yeah,
that's just how it is. And
yeah.
we kind of determine how fast we grow and if we grow and how uncomfortable it can get. But in
That's
the
right.
end, no one ever said I grew so much by staying exactly where they were.
That's
So
right.
it's so
Yeah.
true. And since we talked about connection,
Mhm.
I thought to near the end bring up a really fun topic called dating.
Yeah, let's talk
And
about that.
yeah, I thought, what are the main differences you have actually experienced already between the culture of dating in the US and here in New Zealand?
That's a good question. Well, I think, well, probably the one that stands out to me the most is and okay, I think there's just a different level um, of just respect. It's a different kind of way in which, um, from what I can see, women and men kind of engage with each other, right? There seems to me, and my experience has been kind of a different level of respect. I think, um, also what I've observed is that men here are a bit more reserved, so you're not always as clear, which, that's different. And yeah, I think what else has been unique? Well, one thing that struck me initially was I love this idea of like, hey, would you like to join me for a walk or go for a coffee? Because a lot of things in the States are centered around drinking. Hey, I'll meet you out for a drink or I'll meet you out for dinner. So, it's already kind of like this
Right.
really deep commitment just to go
Right, yeah.
on a date. So I'm like, a coffee and a walk feels good. um,
Yeah.
yeah. So I would say
Honestly,
those are some of the things that stand out.
especially when you say for a walk, I started loving it, even with my friends. I'm like, shall we
Yes.
just, meet up for a little walk? It's
Yeah.
so normal. And even with dates, it's like, okay, let's just meet somewhere where we are both safe.
Yes. That's
And then,
right. We go for
yeah,
a
have
walk.
a coffee. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you can
Yeah.
actually have a conversation. You don't
That's
think
right.
about how can I get drunk quickly? Nothing
That's
like
right.
that. It's
That's right.
like
Yeah.
really assessing how the other
Yeah.
person is. And yeah, I love that. So,
Yeah. Yeah, there is something special about walking and just talking, And you're right, like when you have a drink, it's like your other person shows up or whoever whatever makes you feel less nervous is showing up versus just a coffee and a walk. So I've enjoyed that a lot.
exactly.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I
Fun.
think there's something, as you said, like a dinner is so committed in terms of you go out, then you kind of feel like, okay, it's already awkward because you don't know each other. And then you eat in front of
Right.
each other. Then you have that
Right.
weird silence of who's taking the bill. What happens
Right.
after that? Are you coming to me? Are we going for a drink after? Is this the
Right.
end?
Right. That's right.
Yeah,
That
I
is very
feel
true.
you.
Yeah. I did have an experience where I had a meal and it was a coursed meal and it was many
Oh,
courses. Yeah. It was
wow. A big commitment.
a big commitment. So I'm like, I like coffees and walks.
So, can I hear out of that that you would have loved to just get the coffee in that moment?
Yeah, yeah, I think coffee would have been nice.
I understand. That's
Yes.
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I'm really grateful that you shared a bit of that as well. I know it's very personal, so
yeah.
I'm happy that you were just having a little bit of the fun bits, and I don't want to dive
Yeah.
too deep into it. But
Yeah.
I usually end the episode with like quick three questions, which is
Okay.
just like answered relatively short in one word, one sentence type of
Mhm.
answers.
Okay.
And it's, yeah, just to kind of sum up a nice episode.
Okay.
So, what have you noticed that you missed the most from Atlanta or the US in general since you are over here?
What have I missed the most? I mean, nothing. I mean, I honestly, I feel obligated to have an answer. Okay, I miss my favorite store, which is the store called Anthropology. I miss
Ah,
that so
okay.
much. Yes, yes.
And what would you get in that store?
Oh my gosh, just really it's so beautiful. It's got so I love color. I love, vibrant, just things that make me feel alive, and
Yeah.
it's a store that like you walk inside of it and it sort of heightens every one of your senses, like your sight, your smell, well, they don't have food, so not taste, but just all of your other senses.
Yeah.
And I just love the vibrancy of the clothing and the smell of the candles and the music playing. Um, so yeah, so I'd
Nice.
say that's something that I look forward to um, going to. And okay, I'm saying that, knowing that obviously missing my friends and my family is like number one. I'm saying like just,
Yeah.
our little creature comforts are the things that we kind of miss.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And who knows? I hope that maybe you find like a little nice, cute store that has a little bit of
Yeah.
what you were used to, and you can feel just like home as well.
Yes, that's right.
All right, question number two. What
Mhm.
advice would you give someone who is in the middle of these, changes happening, not really sure
Mm.
where to go, what to do, maybe already thinking of moving countries, but still not sure? Is there any advice you would give them?
Yeah, I would say just move. Just take a step, and the step can be a small step. It could be making a phone call. It could be looking at a website. It could be having a conversation. Just actually take a step because I guess one thing that I discovered in this experience has been, each step leads you to the next step. And somehow, once you get to the next step, you know what to do to take the next step, but without movement, you're not able to witness or experience what the next step's going to be. So I would just say, just move, just take a step.
Yeah, great said.
Mhm.
Thank you so much. So,
Sure.
last question. Is there anyone you could think of that you think should be on the show and share their story of moving or
Mm.
traveling the world, having a great experience overseas? Is there anyone that
Mm.
comes to your mind that you would suggest?
Um, yeah, well, actually, one of my friends who I've Well, actually, now I have like two people, but one of my friends in particular, um, I think she would be lovely in describing and explaining kind of what her experience has been like, specifically moving here. And her name's Amina, and she's just vibrant. She's just a beautiful light, and I think she would be able to would just be able to share kind of what her experience in transition has been like as well.
Nice. Thank you so much. So,
Yeah.
Jennifer, it has been amazing to have you on. You are such a light already. I think everyone can see with your big smile, and you just radiate happiness.
Oh,
That
thank you.
I'm just so grateful that you were sharing your story. And you never know. I feel like even the process of how you did it is so inspiring that I can imagine
Mm,
someone might be able to use that as a tool as well. So
that's right.
hopefully someone can learn something from it. And thank you so much for your time and for being here. And yeah, just that you shared so vulnerably as well.
Of course. Well, thank you so much for inviting me, and I've enjoyed this conversation. So much fun. So thanks for having me.
Thanks. So, and I hope everyone who is listening or watching is enjoying it as much as we did. And I hope I see you next time. Bye.
Bye.